Some people don't enter your life to love you. They enter to use you, and the deepest prisons have no bars. They are built quietly, in your own mind, by the one person you were taught to trust the most. There is a silent chaos that many of us experience. It's not the noise of the world, but a quiet confusion that settles in the heart. It's the feeling of walking on eggshells in your own home, of second-guessing your own memory, of feeling responsible for another person's happiness, in a way that drains your own. This journey isn't about pointing fingers. It is about turning on a light in a dark room. It's about understanding the architecture of manipulation, not to place blame, but to finally find the door out of a prison you may not even realize you're in. There's a fog that can settle between you and your own soul. It doesn't roll all at once. It starts as a thin mist, a slight uncertainty, a harmless comment, a forgotten promise. You brush it off, but the mist thickens day by day until you can no longer see the path ahead or the path behind. You are standing still, but the world feels like it's spinning. This is the first and most fundamental state of being under a manipulator's influence, a profound and disorienting self-doubt. Have you ever had a moment late at night when the house is still? You're lying in the dark, replaying a conversation from earlier in the day. You are certain of what was said. You can hear the words in your own mind, clear as a bell. You felt the sting of it, the injustice. But when you brought it up, their face was a mask of calm confusion. I never said that. The words are spoken so smoothly, with such unshakable confidence. You must be remembering it wrong. You're always so emotional about these things. And for a terrifying second, you believe them. The certainty you held just a moment ago fractures. The memory becomes slippery, unreliable. The ground beneath you gives way. You start to think, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I did hear it wrong. This is the beginning of the erosion. Your own mind, the one place you should feel safe, becomes a hostile territory. The central metaphor for this experience is a room where the walls are slowly closing in. When you first enter the relationship, the room is spacious. You feel free, but a hidden mechanism is at work. Every time a memory is denied, every time your feelings are dismissed, a wall inches closer. You don't notice it at first. You just subconsciously adjust your posture, make yourself a little smaller to fit. You stop stretching your arms out so wide. Over months or years, you adapt to a space that is incredibly confined because the change was so gradual. The manipulator stands beside you, the unseen architect of this prison, and assures you, with a gentle smile, that the room has always been this size, that this is normal, that your feeling of being suffocated is just in your head. You begin to feel perpetually guilty, but for a crime you can't name. It's a low-grade anxiety, a constant feeling that you are somehow failing, falling short, doing something wrong. You are the anchor in the relationship, yet you are the one who feels adrift. They are the source of the storm, yet they have convinced you that you are the one rocking the boat. The ancient Stoics had a powerful antidote for this kind of poison. The philosopher Epictetus, a man who was once a slave and understood the nature of prisons, both real and psychological, gave us a teaching known as the dichotomy of control. He said that the world is divided into two parts, that which is in our control and that which is not. What is not in our control? Other people. What they say, what they do, what they think of us, the stories they tell, the version of reality they present. This, Epictetus would say, is external to you. It is like the weather. You can't control the rain. You can only control how you respond to it. And what is in our control? Our judgments, our choices, our assent, the decision to believe their version of events over our own. The manipulator's power is not in their words. It is in your agreement with their words. They cannot force you to doubt your own mind. They can only offer the suggestion over and over until you choose to accept it. Their entire game is built on hijacking that one sacred thing you own, your perception. So, as you stand in that fog of doubt, a quiet question begins to form. It's not an accusation, it's not angry. It's just a whisper of curiosity. What if the fog is not coming from inside you? What if the room really is getting smaller? What if you're not the one who is wrong? This question is the first flicker of light. It doesn't burn the fog away instantly, but for the first time, it shows you that an edge exists, that there is a world outside of the confusion. And in that small, quiet moment of questioning, you begin to take back a piece of your own mind. You stop looking for what is wrong with you, and you start simply to observe. Have you ever apologized for your own peace of mind? Have you ever said, "I'm sorry," not because you were wrong, but because the argument was too exhausting, and your apology was the only key that would unlock a moment of silence? This is the hollow core of gaslighting. It's the feeling of looking into what you think is a mirror, but seeing a stranger looking back, a distorted, ugly version of yourself, a caricature. And the person holding the mirror, the person you trust, says, "See? This is you. This is the real you." They tell you, you are too sensitive. And they create situations designed to make you react, so they can point to your tears as proof. They say, "You are irrational." And they present you with circular arguments and twisted logic until your mind is so tangled that you can't think straight, proving their point. They say, "You are difficult to love." And they withhold affection and approval until you are starving for it. And then they offer a crumb as a reward for your compliance. After a while, you stop trusting your own reflection. You begin to believe the one they hold up for you. This is more than just lying. This is psychological vandalism. It's the systematic denial of your reality, replaced with a fiction that is designed to keep you small, dependent, and easy to control. Think of a moment, a specific one. You bought a new shirt. You felt good in it. You walked into the room and they looked you up and down. They didn't say, "I don't like it." They said, "Oh, are you sure you want to wear that?" It brings out that thing you're so self-conscious about. Instantly, your joy evaporates. It's replaced by shame. The comment was subtle, phrased almost as concern, but the intent was to wound. And when you flinched, when you felt that sting of hurt, they might have said, "What? I was just trying to help. You're so sensitive." You went and changed the shirt. You chose their version of you over your own feeling of confidence. You apologized for your reaction. In that moment, you handed them a piece of your soul. Perfect metaphor for this is a carnival funhouse mirror. The kind that makes you look tall and skeletal, or short and warped. A master manipulator is the owner of this carnival. They are charismatic and charming. They lure you into their tent with promises of fun and excitement. They stand you in front of this strange, distorting mirror, and with all the authority of the ringmaster, they convince you that the grotesque reflection you see is the truth. Their greatest trick is not the mirror itself. It's making you forget what you looked like before you stepped inside. How do you fight this? You don't argue with the reflection. You don't try to smash the mirror. The Stoics offer a much quieter, more powerful solution. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world at the time, spent his nights writing to himself, trying to see the world clearly, free from the distortions of emotion and the opinions of others. He practiced stripping things down to their essential nature. He would tell himself, "This cucumber is bitter, throw it away. There are briars in the road, turn aside from them. That is enough. Do not add." And why were such things made in the world? When the manipulator holds up their mirror and says, "You are hysterical," the Stoic approach is not to argue, "No, I'm not." The approach is to practice what Marcus did, to strip it down. "You are hysterical" is not a fact. It is not a diagnosis. It is an opinion coming from a troubled and unreliable source. It is just words. The cucumber is bitter. Throw it away. The opinion is toxic. Let it go. Your value, your sanity, your character. These things are not determined by the distorted mirror they hold up. They are determined by your own actions, your own principles. You must become the keeper of your own reflection. The goal is to simply turn away from their funhouse mirror, to stop seeking your image in a source that is designed to warp it. This requires a quiet defiance. It is the internal shift from shame and confusion to a calm resolve. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to convince them. You just need to know it for yourself. The next time they say, "You're remembering it wrong," a quiet voice inside you says, "No, I remember." The next time they call you too sensitive, that voice says, "My feelings are a reasonable response to your behavior." The distorted image in the mirror only has power as long as you are looking at it. The moment you walk away, the moment you decide to trust the reflection in your own heart, the carnival is over. The mirror is just glass and silver, and it can no longer judge your soul. There is a weight that is heavier than anger. It is the unending sorrow of another person, a sorrow that they wear like a crown. This is the tool of the manipulator who plays the perpetual victim. The emotional conflict here is not a loud battle, but a slow, silent drowning in someone else's manufactured misery. You are emotionally blackmailed by their suffering. They have positioned themselves as the fragile martyr, the one who the world has wronged, and any attempt you make to express your own needs, your own joy, or your own pain is framed as a cruel attack on their delicate state. You find yourself living in a constant state of low-grade guilt. Your energy is siphoned away, not by loud commands, but by the quiet, heavy obligation to manage their feelings. You become the emotional caretaker of a grown adult. Think of this scene. You have something wonderful planned. Maybe it's as simple: coffee with a friend you haven't seen in ages, or a class you've been excited to take. It's a small pocket of joy just for you. As you're getting ready to leave, the manipulator sighs heavily. They slump onto the sofa. "What's wrong?" You ask. They say, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just ... my headache is back." Or, "I was just thinking about that terrible thing that happened to me years ago." Or, "I just feel so anxious today." I don't know why. The crisis is always vague, always timed perfectly. Suddenly, your joy feels selfish. Your small plan to nourish your own soul feels like an act of abandonment. So you cancel. You text your friend, "So sorry, something came up." You stay home. You make them tea. You sit and listen to the same sad stories you've heard 100 times before. And as you sit there, you can't shake the quiet, nagging feeling that this entire crisis was a performance, staged for the sole purpose of keeping you here. The metaphor for this dynamic is a poisoned well. The manipulator stands beside it, looking pale and thirsty. "I am so broken," they say. "Life has been so cruel to me." They present you with a bucket and point to the well, so you lower it down. You pour your energy, your compassion, your time, your patience into their well. You give them all the emotional water you have. But the well is bottomless. It never fills. You exhaust yourself. You become dehydrated, emotionally spent. And when you have nothing left to give, they look at you with sad, accusatory eyes and say, "You see, no one is ever there for me. You're just like all the rest. You were set up to fail from the beginning. The well is not meant to be filled. It is meant to keep you pouring. It is a tool to make you feel both powerful, the rescuer, and powerless, the eternal failure." The Stoic philosopher Seneca, a man who dealt with the whims of the mad Emperor Nero, understood the difference between true hardship and a performance of suffering. He wrote about distinguishing between what genuinely harms our character, things like poor judgment, cruelty, or a lack of integrity, and what are merely unpleasant circumstances. A manipulator takes an unpleasant circumstance, a headache, a bad day at work, a minor social slight, and frames it as a soul-crushing tragedy. They weaponize misfortune. The Stoic response is not to become cold and heartless. It is to offer compassion without taking on responsibility. You can look at the person by the well and say, "I am sorry you are thirsty." You can offer them a glass of water from your own supply. But you are not obligated to drain your own life force trying to fill their bottomless pit. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. This is the shift from enslavement back to empathy with boundaries. You begin to see their performance for what it is. You notice the pattern. The crises always seem to happen when you have something planned. The helplessness only seems to appear when there's something they don't want to do. You can ask yourself a simple question. How much of my day is spent thinking about their emotional state? How much of my energy is dedicated to preventing their next meltdown? When you realize you've been pouring your life into a poisoned well, you don't do it with anger. You do it with a sad clarity. You simply put down the bucket. You can still be a kind person. You can still wish them well from the bottom of your heart. But you recognize that their well is their own to fill. Your water is for your own garden. And for the first time in a long time, you allow yourself to feel the relief of that truth. You stop being the rescuer and you start being just a person, separate and whole. There is an exhaustion that comes not from hard work, but from pointless labor. It is the deep soul weariness of trying to please someone who has decided you never will. This is the game of the moving goalposts. The emotional conflict here is a cycle of hope and despair. You are given a target, a clear path to earning their approval, their love, their acceptance, so you strive. You work, you change yourself, you sacrifice. And just as you are about to reach the goal, you see that it has moved. The finish line has been pushed further down the road, that it's a game that is rigged for you to lose. And its purpose is to keep you in a perpetual state of striving, always feeling inadequate, always just one more achievement away from being worthy. Imagine you're in a relationship where you are told you don't contribute enough financially. It becomes a source of tension, a constant point of criticism. So you work harder, you take on extra projects, you stay late. You finally get the promotion, the raise. You come home, excited to share the news, expecting pride, expecting relief. Instead, they look at the numbers and say, "That's it. With all that extra work, I thought it would be more." Or, "That's good, but now look at how much time you're spending at the office. We never see you. The problem is you're a workaholic." The goalposts have moved. The original problem money has been solved. But a new one has been created in its place. You apologized for being too emotional, so you learned to be more reserved. Now you're criticized for being cold and distant. You worked on being more tidy around the house. Now you're criticized for being obsessive and controlling. The feeling is one of utter hopelessness. You are running a race where the finish line is a mirage. The perfect metaphor for this is climbing a mountain of sand. From a distance, it looks like a real mountain. There is a peak, a clear objective. So you begin to climb. The effort is immense. For every 2 steps up, you slide 1 step back. The sand gets in your eyes, in your lungs. It's gritty and frustrating, but you keep your eyes on the summit. But every time you get close, a gust of wind, a new criticism, a new standard blows the peak away. The summit dissolves and reforms just a little higher, a little further out of reach. The manipulator ensures that you are always climbing, always focused on the impossible peak. They want you so focused on the striving that you never have a moment to stop, look down, and realize the truth. This is not a mountain. This is a pile of sand. And it was never meant to be conquered. The Stoic teacher Epictetus had a revolutionary idea for his time. He taught that we must have an internal scorecard. In a world obsessed with external validation, status, reputation, the approval of others, Epictetus argued that a wise person measures their worth against their own principles. Manipulator wants your validation system to be entirely external. They want to be the sole judge of your worth. They are the referee, the scorekeeper, and the one who changes the rules at will. The Stoic path is to take the whistle from their lips and give it to your own conscience. You did what you believed was the right thing to do. You acted with integrity. You tried your best. According to your internal scorecard, that is a victory. Whether they acknowledge it, whether they praise you for it, is irrelevant. It is as external to you as the barking of a dog. You can start to put this into practice with a quiet internal shift. You present a gift, something you put thought and heart into. You see that familiar, subtle look of disappointment on their face. They say, "It's nice, but ... In the past, your stomach would sink. You would feel that familiar sting of failure. But now, with this new understanding, something different happens. You hear their words, but you also hear your own internal voice. And that voice says, "I gave this gift with love and good intention. That is enough. My action is complete." Their reaction is theirs. You can ask yourself, am I measuring my life by my own values or by theirs? What would happen if I decided today that I was already enough without changing another thing? The emotional shift is from frantic striving to a calm acceptance. You realize it is an unwinnable game, and the only winning move is not to play. There's an incredible peace in this. It's the feeling of finally putting down a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. You stop climbing. You brush the sand from your clothes, and you walk away from the shifting mountain towards solid ground. There is a unique kind of anger that comes from being wounded by an invisible blade. It is the frustration of being attacked in ways you can't prove, by someone who claims they're only joking. This is the realm of covert aggression, the manipulators. Art of plausible deniability. The emotional conflict is a maddening one. You feel the sting of an insult, the disappointment of a broken promise, the disrespect of their chronic lateness to things that matter deeply to you. But when you react, when you show you're hurt, you are immediately painted as the problem. You're too sensitive. You can't take a joke. Why are you so paranoid? They start a small fire and then act surprised when you smell the smoke. Think of this scene. You are at a dinner party with friends. The mood is light and happy. You feel relaxed. And then, the manipulator, your partner or trusted friend, decides to tell a story. It's a story about you, one of your most embarrassing moments. A failure, a mistake, something you shared with them in confidence. But they tell it now, framed as a hilarious anecdote. The table erupts in laughter, but you don't feel funny. You feel a cold, sharp sting of humiliation. Your cheeks burn. You have been exposed, made small for their entertainment. You look at them, and they are smiling, basking in the attention. Later, when you're alone, you tell them how much that hurt, and they look at you with wide-eyed innocence. What? It was just a joke. Everyone thought it was funny. God, you really can't take anything. You have to ruin everything by being so serious. In that moment, a double injury occurs. First, the betrayal of your trust. Second, the denial of your right to feel hurt by that betrayal. You are not only wounded, you are then punished for bleeding. The metaphor for this tactic is an untended campfire. The manipulator doesn't throw a log on the fire and declare war. They are too clever for that. Instead, they accidentally kick a few glowing embers into a patch of dry leaves. They do it with a careless smile. Then they walk away, whistling, feigning total innocence. A small fire begins to smolder. You see it, you smell the smoke. Panicked, you rush to stamp it out. You're patting at the leaves, trying to contain the damage. And the manipulator turns back and looks at you, not at the fire they started. They look at your frantic actions, at your worried face, and say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so dramatic? It's just a little smoke." They create chaos, and then they judge your reaction to it, making you the source of the disturbance. The Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, had a mental technique for dealing with this kind of subtle attack. He called it objective representation. It means seeing events without the emotional story we instinctively attach to them. It is the practice of looking at the facts and only the facts. He wouldn't say, "My friend betrayed me at the dinner party." The word betrayed is a judgment, a story. Instead, he would practice thinking, "My friend spoke certain words about a past event. Other people made sounds of laughter. I felt a sensation of heat in my face." This might sound cold or detached, but its purpose is powerful. It strips away the manipulator's camouflage. When you remove the story of "it was just a joke," you can see the action clearly. The action was, they took a private vulnerability and made it public for social gain. The action was, they prioritized their own momentary status over your feelings of safety. This clarity gives you the power to trust your own gut. Your feeling of being hurt was not paranoia. It was an accurate response to a subtle act of aggression. You don't have to fight the fire in a frenzy anymore. You don't have to argue or try to prove your case. You just have to see the ember for what it is. You can ask yourself, how often am I blamed for my reaction to a problem I didn't create? Am I called dramatic for responding to the chaos they quietly started? The emotional shift is profound. It moves you from reactive anger and self-doubt into a state of calm observation. You are no longer a participant in the drama. You are a witness to the tactic. You see the ember fall. You see the smoke begin to rise. And you no longer feel the frantic urge to stamp it out and then defend your actions. Instead, a quiet voice inside you simply says, "I see what you are doing." There is no need for a confrontation. There is no need for an argument. The power is in the seeing. The moment you see the trick, the magic is gone. The fire starter loses their power when you are no longer surprised by the flame. You simply, quietly, take a step away from the fire. There's a kind of loneliness that feels like safety. It is the quiet, insulated world that a manipulator builds around you, one brick at a time, until you realize you haven't seen the sun in years. This is the sign of isolation. The emotional conflict here is the slow creeping realization that your world has shrunk. The manipulator doesn't use chains, they use concern. They don't build a prison wall. They build a sanctuary and lock the door from the outside. They subtly, patiently work to sever your connections with anyone who might offer you a different perspective. Your friends, your family, your colleagues, anyone who truly sees you and supports you is reframed as a threat. They'll say things like, "Your sister is so judgmental. I don't think she really has your best interests at heart." Or, "That friend of yours is a bad influence. Did you see the way they looked at you? I'm just trying to protect you." Each comment is a seed of doubt planted against the people who love you. Over time, you begin to pull away. It's easier than defending them. It's easier than dealing with the manipulator's disapproval after you see them. Your world gets smaller, and the manipulator's presence gets bigger, until they are your only source of comfort, your only advisor, your only reality check. You are trapped, but you believe you are being protected. Think of this moment. You're scrolling through your phone late at night. You see a photo of a group of old friends laughing together. You weren't invited. You haven't spoken to them in months. You feel a sharp, painful pang of loneliness, of being left behind. And then, like clockwork, you hear the manipulator's voice in your own head, a voice you've now internalized. They probably wouldn't have wanted you there anyway. You've outgrown them. They don't understand you like I do. The voice soothes the initial pain, but it does so by reinforcing the walls of your prison. It justifies the isolation. It makes the cage feel like a wise choice, the perfect metaphor. For this is a beautiful, gilded cage. The manipulator is not a cruel jailer. They are the most devoted keeper. They present the cage to you not as a prison, but as a sanctuary from a dangerous world. The bars are golden. There's a soft velvet swing. They bring you your favorite seeds, fresh water every day. They tell you how lucky you are to be so safe, so protected from the hawks and storms outside, and for a long time you believe it. World outside does seem loud and dangerous. The comfort of the cage is real. But one day, a wild bird lands on the windowsill, just outside the bars. It sings a song you haven't heard in years, a song of the open sky. And for the first time, you look at the beautiful bars of your cage, and you see them for what they are. Bars. The terror and the freedom of your life arrive in the very same instant. The door was never locked. You were just taught to be afraid of having wings. The Stoics had a name for the one place that can never be caged, the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, they both taught that while our bodies can be imprisoned, our circumstances constrained, and our relationships severed, our mind, our faculty of reason, choice, and judgment, is a fortress that no one can breach without our permission. The manipulator can build a gilded cage around your life, but they cannot get inside your head unless you hand them the key. Rebuilding your external connections with the world is a vital, practical step, but the very first step is internal. It is to recognize and begin to inhabit your own inner fortress. It's the place within you that can observe the cage without believing its story. It's the part of you that can hear the wild bird song and recognize it as the sound of your own true nature. You can start to find the citadel by asking yourself some gentle questions. Has my world gotten smaller since I met this person? Who are the people I have lost touch with? What were the stories I was told about them that made me pull away? What am I being protected from? And could that protection actually be control? The emotional shift is from a kind of Stockholm syndrome, dependence on and affection for your captor, to a deep, primal yearning for freedom. It is the moment the caged bird remembers the feeling of the wind under its wings. The focus shifts from the comfort of the cage to the intrinsic, non-negotiable value of liberty. You realize that you would rather face the storms of the real world than live safely in a beautiful lie. We have walked through the fog of doubt, stood before the distorting mirror, poured our life into the poisoned well, climbed the mountain of sand, stamped out the untended fire, and sat within the gilded cage. Each of these is a different room, but they are all rooms in the same invisible prison. And now we arrive at the heart of the matter, the final conflict. And this conflict is not with the manipulator. It is with yourself. It is the choice between the painful, liberating truth and the comfortable, soul-destroying lie. All of these signs, all of these tactics, are tools designed for one purpose: to hijack your perception, to control the story you tell yourself about your life. The manipulator's true power was never in what they did. It was in their ability to make you agree with their interpretation of what they did. The climax of this journey is not a loud confrontation. It is a moment of profound internal stillness. It is the moment you make the choice to see. Imagine for your whole life with this person. You have been wearing a special pair of glasses. They gave them to you. They told you that these glasses would help you see the world more clearly, but they were custom made. The lenses were warped, ground to a prescription that served them. Through these glasses, your own reactions looked huge and monstrous. Their criticisms looked small and reasonable. Your needs looked like an unfair burden. Their betrayals looked like simple mistakes. The world, through these glasses, was a confusing, anxiety-inducing place where you were always, somehow, the problem. The climax of your story, the great turning point, is the simple, conscious act of taking the glasses off. You lift them from your face. And at first, the light is blinding. The truth can be harsh to look at. You see the deception clearly. You see the manipulation, the selfishness, the patterns you refused to see before. It hurts, looking at the truth after living in a comfortable illusion always hurts. But then your eyes adjust. And for the first time in a very long time, you see things as they are. You see them, and you see yourself. Not the distorted reflection from the funhouse mirror, but your true self. Wounded, perhaps. Tired, certainly. But whole. And free. The Stoics had a word for this moment, for this power. The word is prohairesis. It is our faculty of choice, our will, our judgment. It is the command center of our soul. Epictetus taught that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. The manipulator is just a person, speaking words, performing actions. They are an external event, like a rainstorm. The suffering doesn't come from the rain. It comes from your judgment that the rain is a personal attack on you, that it means you are unworthy of a sunny day. The suffering comes from your assent to their story. The moment you take off the glasses is the moment you consciously withdraw your assent that they say you're being irrational. The old you, wearing the glasses, would argue, defend, and feel shame. The new you, without the glasses, simply observes the words and chooses not to agree. The statement hangs in the air, powerless, because you have not given it a place to land at. This is the moment of radical responsibility. The narrative shifts. It is no longer, look at what they did to me. It becomes, I see what was done, and I will no longer participate in this reality. It is a quiet, internal revolution. A shift from being a side character in their drama to becoming the main character, the author of your own life. This is the moment the storm inside finally breaks. And in its wake, there is not destruction. There is a quiet, formidable, and beautiful calm. And so, we arrive at the end. But it is not a dramatic end. There is no final cinematic confrontation. There is no slamming of doors, no tearful screaming match. There is often nothing on the outside that looks like it has changed at all. The real resolution is a deep, settled peace. The ultimate way to reclaim your power from a manipulator is not to fight them. It is not to expose them or to get justice from them. It is to make them irrelevant. Their games only work if you play. Their words only hurt if you grant them authority. Their entire reality depends on your participation, and you are no longer participating. By practicing these Stoic ideas, by cultivating your inner citadel, you build a fortress inside yourself. The bricks are your own trusted perceptions. The mortar is your commitment to your own values. You learn to observe your judgments, to separate what is yours from what is theirs. You learn to focus on your own character, your own actions, which are the only things you can truly control. You learn to detach from the external chaos with a sense of compassionate distance. The manipulator may still be in your life. They may still circle the walls of your fortress. They may shout the same old insults. They may try to light the same old fires. They may hold up the same old distorting mirror. But from inside your quiet fortress, you barely hear them. The sounds are muffled, distant. They are just noise. You are no longer lost in their fog. You are no longer climbing their mountain of sand. You are no longer in their cage. You are home. Within yourself, the goal was never to change them. That was a game. You were never meant to win. The goal was to reclaim you. And you have. This is the peace that comes not from a victory over another, but from a victory over your own illusions. It is a strength that does not need to be announced or performed. It is a quiet, unshakable, and dignified calm. Subscribe for more paths to inner clarity.